Got to unmute there for a second.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. This is Brian Hill, the Jack of all trades, the master of none. And I'm here with my friend, Sir Nerdalot. Tonight, I'm going to be Captain Hill. I got my new uniform in the mail. So I'm hoping in the future to do more Star Trek content focused on the era that I love the most, which is the Next Generation era, which includes the shows The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, and to a certain extent Picard, but that's just, a different topic for a different day. So anyways, today we're going to be talking about the Caretaker, which is the pilot episode for Star Trek Voyager. It's been a while since I've seen it, so let's just dive right in. Your overall thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, so I hadn't seen it in a while also, and I was just actually really pleasantly surprised at what a good opening episode it was for the series.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I liked about it, the things with the Next Generation era, including with the Next Generation, the pilot episodes always had a character from the series that came before. Kind of like Dr. McCoy in Encounter at Farpoint, and let's say
right.
Bashir and Captain Picard in Emissary for Deep Space Nine, kicking that show off, and then Deep Space Nine passing the torch on with Quark and the actual space station from when they set off from. Yeah. So I kind of like that as far as just that trope that they kept going on through those series. Definitely, as far as I'm concerned, it made it all the better.
Yeah, it does make it a really smooth transition into the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially during that time, because if you think back, that's right when it came out in 1995. So Generations had just come out. Deep Space Nine was well into its second, almost third season. So yeah. I mean, everything at that point for Star Trek, anyways, was just rolling like glass. So I mean, I don't think we'll ever see that again as far as the popularity that it had back in the day. But man, it would be kind of nice if we could.
Yeah.
Just a smidgen,
Yeah. One thing I would like to say is that the cold opening, the action-packed cold opening, before the music and everything, really just starts out with a bang and, brings you into what's happening.
Yeah, especially dealing with the Maquis, which were introduced in the Next Generation in the sixth or seventh season, just to start sowing the seeds for it, and it kind of fluidity went into Deep Space Nine, where they kicked a little bit of it off, and it was a recurring storyline through that show. Plus, going on to Voyager, of course, where part of the crew is Maquis.
Yeah.
And also, right off the gate, one of the first characters that you see, aside from Chakotay and his crew, is one of my favorite characters in Star Trek Voyager. Period. Captain Proton himself, Tom Paris. He starts out in a Federation penal colony, and he's basically there for ditching the Federation, and long story short, joining the Maquis in a sense. And once you do that with the Federation, you're basically just branded a traitor and you go to prison. So, and I believe he also sold some people out. I didn't quite catch that understory on that one, but
yeah, I can't remember exactly what happened, but he could have just kept his mouth shut. I think it was direct quote from him whenever he's talking to Harry Kim.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He spoke out, saying that it was his fault, and then he got in trouble for it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think he was loosely based on the character that Robert Duncan McNeil played in Next Generation, the episode where they all get in trouble at the Starfleet Academy, and he's one of the cadets that gets bounced out.
Right.
He was loosely based off of that character. And I also heard behind the scenes kind of stuff that they were going to make him that character.
Oh yeah. See, that's just another thing, all of this fluidity coming from the other series that flow right into Voyager.
Yeah. And it helped having that consistency of the writer room. I mean, I believe it was Jerry Taylor and Michael Piller that really were big parts of, of Star Trek Voyager, and later Brandon Braga and stuff like that. But, writers of, Trek caliber at that point.
Yeah.
I want to touch again on Deep Space Nine because I love Quark.
Right.
I think as far as Deep Space Nine went, he was the most human character, especially of the time, because it's all about greed. It's all about that Wall Street money, especially in the 90s. And they were the epitome of that, and they basically had a religion, and it was all devoted to making that money. So it was
right.
I always liked the Ferengi episodes, especially with Quark and Rom and their mother and stuff like that. They're always
and that scene is so great. Harry Kim saying, they warned me about the Ferengi at the Academy.
Yeah, and then he's like, who warned you? I want names.
And then it's all like a scheme by him to get more money out of him.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And then Tom Paris comes in and with his street smarts, as it were, and kind of gets him out of the situation. And at the end, he's like, "Didn't they warn you about those at the Academy?"
Yeah.
But and then it was interesting, seeing Janeway and her relationship with her, her boyfriend and her dogs. Kind of gave you a little bit of an intro as to who she was.
Yeah, I was trying to think of it. I've told you I haven't watched as much Deep Space Nine as I have the Next Generation and Voyager. Has there been a captain or leader that has had a significant other?
No, actually, most of the Deep Space Nine towards the end, Captain Sisko got married.
Right.
But other than that, no. Not really. Yeah. I mean, I think they tried some stuff with Picard, but nothing really stuck on that one.
I thought that was real interesting at the beginning of this episode when, they're talking about the dog.
Well, not only that, it's a great way to introduce your first female captain.
Yeah.
And it's something that, if it were done today, it would just be talked up tremendously. But I think the fact that it was done then kind of, just showed Star Trek's ability to,
push the boundaries.
Exactly.
Always.
Same thing with Captain Sisko being the first black captain, and you know what I mean. So on and on. I mean, as far as that show has been, it's always been a great vision of, somewhat of a future where we can all get along.
Yeah.
But
so, ranking the theme songs, where do you put Voyager? Because to me, it's one of the best.
Well, let's see here. I'm probably going to go with Voyager. It's a toss-up between Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Like I said, I've been partial to Deep Space Nine because that was my introduction into Star Trek. I had gone back and started watching Next Generation because it was on every day after school. So I got to watch it all. And then Voyager was really good because I watched every episode as they were coming out on UPN, like all those years ago. Yeah. Same thing with Deep Space Nine. I watched that show concurrently almost all the way through. Deep Space Nine or Voyager, I kind of stopped about the 7th season, and that was just because I started playing football in high school and I didn't have time to watch the shows like that when I was getting home.
So I watched most of Voyager on syndication after I was out of high school.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like junior year, I think, is when I kind of stopped watching. That was 99, 2000. It was like the last season. But it was a great way to kick it off. I mean, I liked the use of the Badlands as far as, the plot device. They used it a couple of times in Deep Space Nine as well, as far as like a hideout from the Cardassians.
Right.
And almost not necessarily a stronghold for the Maquis, but definitely a place for them to run away from the Cardassians. There have also been a very interesting villain as the Cardassians. I've always kind of liked them on the grand scheme of things. I mean, you have your Romulans and your Klingons and stuff like that.
Right.
But to me, the Cardassians were always they were a very interesting one, especially ones like Next Generation episodes where where Picard gets captured and he gets tortured basically.
Right.
And yeah, with callbacks to like 1984 and stuff like that. It was definitely one of the things. Another thing I kind of wanted to talk about, when they get basically, so they're in the Badlands. The Maquis ship has already been sent to the Delta Quadrant, and now Voyager goes to investigate, and they also get sent to the Delta Quadrant. When they get there, they're basically all removed from the ship. A lot of the crew ends up getting injured or killed, like the doctor and the main doctor, stuff like that. So they end up having to activate the EMH, which is the emergency medical hologram, played by Robert Picardo. The man, the myth, the legend. He is awesome, and everything he's done.
Right. I always remembered him from. Oh gosh, it's totally escaping me now. Inner Space.
Yeah.
The body he takes over, and he's smoking that cigar, and he has the cowboy hat. I don't know why. That's the only thing I remember, but it's crazy.
No, he was great. I liked his little cameo in First Contact. That was always nice. But anyways, the crew gets taken from there to the Caretaker's array, which is basically like a holographic simulation, which with the Caretaker basically tests people to see if they're worthy to take up the mantle. It's funny because it takes place in like a barbecue, where the community is getting together. And it reminded me of when I actually got to meet Garrett Wong, who plays Harry Kim. I met him I got an autograph from him at a Pacific Rim Festival in downtown Sacramento. This was 96, 97, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. The thing I remember is they used to have a sci-fi shop there called Galactic Imports, and you go in there and I bought my communicator pin, the first one I ever got. I bought it there. You could buy all sorts of crazy stuff. The coolest thing they had was one of those Picard leather jackets that he wore in the later seasons.
Yeah.
That was really cool, but a little fun tidbit. But anyways, after that, it basically kicks off the episode. The crew's stranded 70 light year, or was it 70,000 light years from home?
Yeah.
And it's going to take them at least 74 years to get there or something like that. And, it's always nice because Trek's always been that show about exploration, and what better way to show a show but lost in space, where they got to get their way home, one way or the other. And I like how they adhered to the Federation ideals while they did it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've always liked about Star Trek, namely the main crews of the eras, is that they are the ones that uphold the Federation. The Federation might not, you've got the dirty dealing admirals and stuff like that, and it's a constant thing, but the crew of the Enterprise is the principle.
Yeah.
And I always like that. In a world of chaos, they are the ship, basically.
Well, yeah, but on that note, other than Deep Space Nine, because I'm pretty sure Cisco had a different ship. This is our first journey away from the Enterprise.
Yeah, and not only that, but a true science ship of exploration.
Yeah,
because the Intrepid class is a science class ship.
Right. And
I also like that, especially my friend had the toy with the nacelles that would pop up when it go to warp. So cool. But it kind of had something that they didn't really stick with too much, because I don't think it really stuck, was the bioneural circuitry. I think they actually there was an episode or something like that where all the bio packs or the gel packs went bad, and they had to switch over to a traditional isolinear or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But that was in later seasons, though. I'm not 100%.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, let's see here.
So I'll just add a thought. I like how each Star Trek has their like own little version of how technology has advanced, and I love the EMH doc.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's such a cool way to show the advancement of technology. He had Data, and even though Data wasn't necessarily, he was more of like a one-off.
But they were in the same situation, though.
Yeah. Yep.
At one way or another, they were artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Be it photonic in nature or physical carbon based. So I mean, or whatever Data's made out of. I'm not sure. I'll probably get roasted for that one, but anyway. Yeah. I totally agree on that one, especially with the EMH. And I kind of Deep Space Nine. They try to make Bashir one, and long story short, they find out he's genetically enhanced and stuff like that. But anyways, spoilers. Sorry, didn't mean to blow the show for you.
No, you're okay.
But no, what's that? Go ahead.
I've seen it sporadically. Like I've seen it. Like I've never watched it like full on, like season to season.
I don't think I've ever binged it either. The only time I really watched it consecutively is when they put it in syndication.
Right.
Yeah. I always never when they put Voyager into syndication, it was years later, so I never got to see it that much. And it was the same thing with Enterprise. When it first came out, I watched the first episode, and then I kind of fell off. But the thing is I did like the intro after the Faith of the Heart was pretty good. I dug that.
Yeah, Enterprise grew on me after a while.
Yeah, it totally did. I mean, I dug Archer from the beginning. I mean, who doesn't like Scott Bakula?
Right.
He's great. But the rest of it, I mean, I never heard of anybody else in the show, really. I mean, Connor Trinneer was really good. I liked him as Trip Tucker. He was really cool. I dug that guy.
Well, that's one of the notes, that I put down is that, Star Trek has this, uncanny knack of pulling in, fairly unknown actors. Every once in a while they pull in like a Robert Picardo, Reading Rainbow guy.
Oh, well,
LeVar Burton, and Picard himself, but for the most part, they're generally unknown actors.
Yeah, I think soap opera stars for the most part.
Right.
I think Marina Sirtis was in a couple like Charles Bronson movies and stuff like that back in the early 80s. But it definitely thing is I thought Kate Mulgrew. I mean, she's great. I mean, I loved her in Orange Is the New Black. She was really good as Red.
Right. Yeah.
So back to the episode. They get back to the ship and they realize that they basically just got operated upon and abducted by the caretaker. He sent 2 people back down to the surface, and they are actually underground into the subterranean realm of the Okampas. And later we find out who the Okampas are and why they're there. As far as the actual species and character of them, we never really got to explore it other than Kess, who becomes part of the crew later on. So, I mean, I understand that they're short-lived. I mean, like 9 years old is probably as far as they're going to go.
I think that's what they said. Yeah, 9 years.
Yeah, and not only that, but they developed telepathy over the course.
But I think like one of the things that like what Kess was fighting against inside of her own community there was that they were trying to suppress that telepathy.
Oh, okay.
And everything.
Yeah, because they didn't want to leave. They knew that there was a sect of them that knew that everything was going to be coming to an end.
Right.
The caretaker was sending stuff at different intervals.
Yeah.
Because they were so used to it coming every time.
Yeah.
So I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, I can see some of that stuff happening now where people start freaking out and
Yeah.
Not necessarily freaking out, but seeing the writing on the walls and start heading for the hills, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
As far, especially being in a subterranean society, that would suck. Just
Yeah.
total
Yeah.
collapse.
I mean, you're trapped there anyways, you know.
Yeah. Oh, then you get on this, and then you meet one of my favorite characters from Voyager, Neelix.
Neelix.
They come upon him when he's in a junkyard or a scrapyard, and you know Janeway's like, I have no interest in your scrapyard. He's like, oh, well, since you have no interest in my scrapyard, how may I help you? He became such an endearing character. I mean, yeah, at times annoying and a little over the top, but you know, gotta love him.
That's just Neelix, though.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, but you understand as the show goes on where that comes from, because he lost everything.
Yep.
And the only thing he had was his sense of humor, his, you know, sense of self-pride. You know what I mean? He really became one of the, like I said, one of the best characters on that show.
And I think, you know, you learn that, you know, him losing his family, you know, that's part of why he really wanted to become part of the family that was Voyager.
Yes, and it definitely was a family, and that's one of the things that another thing that was really constant throughout that show is that sense of family. And you win some, you lose some, because throughout the show they lost crew members, but they gained crew members. I mean, like Icheb, stuff like that. I mean, you know, they picked up in 7 of 9, if you know, for that matter. I mean, that's another thing that was really great about that show. And not only that, but it explored the humanity of like the Doctor, who really wanted to. He was like Pinocchio in a sense. He wanted to get his strings cut. You know,
he was the Voyager's version of Data. Yeah,
100%. And it was also really good as far as helping Seven navigate those waters, because you know he was
because they were kind of in the same boat, you know, almost really, you know.
But so Harry Kim and B'Elanna Torres are down on the planet with the Ocampus, and they get broken out by the sympathizers, I believe, right? And then and then on the surface is the Kazon, and the Kazon, somebody told me, and I thought it was kind of funny. The Kazon were the dollar store
Klingons.
Yes. Oh man,
I can see that.
The dollar store Klingon. It was just like, no, guys. I think at that point in time they had ran out of new character designs.
Yeah,
but and then the ships were kind of weird looking too.
I do like later on in the series when they revisit the Kazon.
Yeah, especially with like Seska and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that planet that they practice hunting on.
Oh yeah, that, and then the Herosians as well. I like that. That show had a lot of really good alien species just because of the Delta Quadrant. I mean,
it was cool because you're running into all new species, you know.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting when you run into similar species, like the 39s or whatever, with Amelia Earhart.
Right.
And the Ferengi that end up finding him and stuff like that. That use a wormhole, and it was the same ones that used the wormhole in Next Generation, I believe.
Yeah.
But as far as the first show, I mean, I really like how they kind of mesh the two crews together. They definitely learned to overcome and work out their differences, and by the end of the first season, they're completely integrated. I mean, a lot of them have Starfleet backgrounds, so I mean, it really does help. I like how they made B'Elanna Torres the chief engineer. As far as chief engineers goes, it's Geordi LaForge, B'Elanna Torres, and then Chief Miles O'Brien somewhere in between.
I will say, during their escape, Balana and Tom and not Harry Kim. Um, what does Harry Kim say? Harry Kim says when he gets injured on the stairs, he says, "I'd probably be able to make it, if I had some of that Klingon blood." And paraphrasing there, but Balana comes back with, "It's not all that is cracked up to be."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is cool. Is one of the things that I like about Voyager is the story arcs of all of these characters. They really have well-developed characters over the seasons, and B'Elanna Torres is one of my favorites, because she's dealing with that rage of being a Klingon and her heritage.
Oh, and her half-human side too, fighting.
Yeah.
And not only that, but she ends up getting married and having children. Yep. And I mean, I kind of like how the writers actually wrote her real-life pregnancy into that too. I think.
Oh, was she really pregnant during that? Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. It's always nice they didn't like write you off the show like they would back
right
then. Yeah. But yeah, man, I don't know, probably wrap it up here about a half an hour or so.
Okay,
we got the main show out of the way, and it's just the two of us anyway, so based on how this proceeds from here. But like I said, I just kind of want to make efforts to talk about the good Trek, not focus on so much the new divisive Trek, which I liked it. I had no problem with Star Trek Picard. I've always been thirsting for that continuation of that Next Generation storyline.
Right. I really liked Picard. It was enjoyable for me. I don't get it. I don't get the hate.
To a certain point, I've said it before. It's just maybe it's time to just realize the show's not for you and walk away from it.
Yeah,
it's not. No one's holding a firearm to your head saying, "Hey, watch that show." Right. But I mean, as far as dealing with the hate, I think that's kind of how I got into the Phantom Menace, was through Discovery and watching Doomcock videos, because the only reviews of the show at that time were just trashing it, man, and it was garbage. And I actually got CBS All Access for Picard, so I went back and watched season 1 and 2 of Discovery, and I didn't think it was too bad. It's not any worse, in my opinion, than any of the other first 2 seasons of any of the other shows that have come out.
And that's really like where I not draw the line, but I'm like, come on, really? All of these series start out slow.
Exactly. Look at Enterprise. I mean, that show took forever to get going.
Yeah. You got to find, the writers need to find their pacing. I think that's one of the good things about Voyager, is that the writers were already,
they were seasoned veterans.
Yep. And so they were able just to hit the door running, and that's really what I think this episode does.
Yes, exactly.
Just hit the doors just flying out of the gates.
Yep,
it's really fun.
Yep, exactly, and it's also one of those stories that sums it up at the end of the episode. To where it is a 2-parter, but by the end of that second hour, it's solved. We're off to the next adventure.
What was it a 2-parter?
Yeah, it was a 2-hour episode, but it was a part 1 and part 2.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because on Netflix it has them together.
Same thing on All Access. It does.
Right.
I remember I recorded it off of the TV.
Oh yeah.
I'd sit there with the VHS on super long play to where it would get like 4 or 5 episodes on one tape.
I tell my kids all the time, I used to have to record stuff on a videotape, and they're like, "What's a videotape?"
Right.
This is box with film in it that spins, and then you watch what's on the film. But Survivor is actually a reason why I got CBS All Access. Survivor and Big Brother.
I got it for all the Trek, and I stayed for the Paramount movies.
Right. Yeah.
I've been watching like the Godfather trilogy. So.
Oh yeah. I'm glad nobody's here watching this, but I am not a big fan of the Godfather movies.
Well, no, I'll agree with you in the sense that once you've seen them the first time,
Yeah.
they are boring on the rewatch.
Right. Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen. They're long and drawn out, and I feel the same way.
See, when it comes to mob movies, Casino and Goodfellas are that's my two top favorites right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Casino is one of my favorite movies. I love Casino.
Casino is such a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Nothing like seeing Pesci with a baseball bat in the middle of a cornfield beating some dude.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of holes in the desert. All right. So I think we'll wrap this one up. We got the Caretaker pretty much summed up. All in all, it was a good episode. I definitely liked the introduction. It does kind of fall off later in the first season, as far as the quality of the show is concerned. But other than that, it's definitely worth a watch. Anyways, you want to go ahead and plug away, sir?
Oh, you can find me on YouTube, Sir Nerdalot, or if you type in Nerdier Things, you can find me there. The next thing I am working on, I am finally going to drop a Star Wars ranking video.
Very nice. Yeah, I definitely need to get working on one of those too. You can find my channel, Brian Hill, the Master of None. I basically just kind of do whatever. Did a video the other day of just me playing Star Trek Online. It's a pretty fun game. I enjoy it. I also got Star Wars: The Old Republic, so I'm probably going to try to do a little bit of that here in the coming weeks. So stay posted. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Have a good day.